Today is International Day of the Disabled Person. That's one of the United Way's priority areas, helping people with disabilities find work. We're joined this morning by Keenan Wellar, who's co-founder and co-leader of LiveWorkPlay. He's also a focus area champion for the United Way, and Dr. Judy Laws, who is an associate with Graybridge Malkam, which is a member of the EARN employer group. We're going to tell you all about that. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Keenan, let's start with LiveWorkPlay. Tell us everything about that.
Sure. Well, it's a homegrown charitable organization, started in 1995, and kind of like the name says, what we're doing is help people have an affordable, quality home in the community, find and keep a paid job, and enjoy social, cultural, recreational activities. And it's focused exclusively on people with intellectual and developmental disabilities.
And people with some kind of disability represent... They don't have their fair share of the jobs in this market. That's one way of looking at it. 43% of people with disabilities participate in the job market compared to 70% of the general population. So they don't have the same opportunities.
That's correct. And that's a phenomenon you might find worldwide, but it's particularly surprising here in Ottawa. We're actually doing worse than a lot of other urban centers in Canada. So that's one of the reasons that at the United Way that was targeted as something that we could do better as a community.
And do we know why we're not doing as well as other communities?
There's some research underway on that. It's relatively new, trying to understand that. But we're considering that perhaps with the level of government employment, there's some work to be done with our government at all levels, but also just awareness that it is an issue. And perhaps the assumption is that we're doing so great we don't need to target it. But now we are.
Is it a white-collar, blue-collar thing? Is it anything to do with that? Is there more white-collar jobs in Ottawa than in other communities? There isn't as much manufacturing here, that type of thing. Is there anything to do with that that's an issue?
It's possible, but we do have a pretty good employment opportunity rate here in Ottawa. So I think it's something we can easily address with greater awareness and assistance to employers who are often very receptive once they get the message.
So, Judy, EARN stands for Employment Accessibility Resource Network. Tell us what that's all about.
Yeah, EARN is a United Way-led initiative that brings together employers and service providers with the goal of increasing opportunities for meaningful employment for people with disabilities. So EARN's vision is by 2015 to increase that number from that 43% you mentioned to a labor market participation rate of 51%. And so they're really about bringing together, if you were facilitating conversation and dialogue with employers and service providers to not only talk about how do we create environments that are inclusive, but find ways to get people with disabilities employed.
That's a big jump, jumping from 43 to 51. How do you do that? What are some of the ways that you go about finding jobs and job opportunities for people with disabilities?
Well, there's many ways to do that. So EARN specifically is looking at putting together, they've got 3 areas, and I just want to make sure I get this correctly. What they're trying to do is one thing is job matching. So at the event that was last Monday here at the city, they launched their new website, and the whole intent is not only to increase awareness, have a place for all providers to come together. There's actually 22 stakeholders involved, but to do job matching. Service provider coordination. Often employers don't know what's out there, what's available. So that's another piece they're going to do. And the other area is to really engage employers. So help them understand. For example, I spoke about the myths that are related.
Right.
So
let's talk about some of those. What are some of the barriers from the employer's perspective that you could actually dispel?
Okay. So for me, there's 2 major ones. Attitudinal. And attitudinal is often, it could be biases, or it's also just lack of awareness about the talents that people with disabilities can bring, just more about who they are and what they're all about. The other is systemic. So looking at their organization and saying, what do we have in place, a policy, practice, or procedure that could be preventing us from hiring a person with disability and retaining them? So those would be 2 big ones for me. And Keenan may have other thoughts.
Yeah,
but
go
those
ahead,
would be
Keenan.
the 2 I would say.
Yeah, I think you've nailed it. I think, one of the biggest barriers is just identifying the opportunity. So we don't want to diminish the capabilities of local employers. And some of the messages we're getting is no one's ever talked to me about this before. And when you think about it, business people in our community are some of the most creative folks. So getting out there and having the conversations, and I think that's a great part of what EARN is all about. It's bringing those conversations together between the people like ourselves that know people with disabilities and their abilities very well, and the employer who hasn't got this message yet. And can we bring those people together to mutual benefit?
And we've been talking this morning about how there are jobs that go unfilled, that there are areas where there is a skills shortage in Ottawa. Many of those jobs are employers are struggling to fill. So if there is an employer out there that wants to look at this as a new way of approaching filling a position, how should they go about it? What are some of the ways that they can approach this?
Yes, well, I think you could start out at unitedwayottawa.ca, and you could find out more about EARN, and if you looked in the belonging to community area, you could find out more about this priority of disability and employment. And that's how you could get matched up with service providers like LiveWorkPlay. But we're just one of many, as Judy has mentioned. There's 22 in that network, and there's more across the city. And I think you'll find any of those providers, if we don't have an opportunity that's suited to you, we are more than excited to match you up with someone else that can make that happen for you.
And Judy, if you were to sell an employer on the concept, to say, look, open your mind to this, there's the potential for you to benefit from bringing somebody on board who could really help you, what are some of the things you would point to?
So number one, recognize that people with disabilities is an untapped resource, and there's lots of good talent out there. So to start from there and start looking at who's out there and what's available for me. I think all employers are struggling to find good talent. The other, I would say, would be to start having conversation. In my network, I have several colleagues and employers I know that employ people with disabilities, are happy, have good results, all those things. There's, start reading about, dispel those myths that you may have, learn more would be what I would say.
And as you point out, if it is an untapped resource, an underused resource, then it's waste in our economy,
yes.
right? So if it's to the benefit of the entire community, if more of these people who want to find employment are actually employed.
Exactly, I agree with you. I say that. I do a lot of work in interviewing and selection, and many employers get stuck in hiring people like them. And it's a natural thing. We're comfortable with who we're comfortable with. And so I'm saying take a risk. Start bringing, as you bring, and there's actually one of the myths is that as we bring people in with disabilities, it often betters the workplace. There's many gains, just like we bring any diverse group member into our organization. So expand your thinking, start to learn more is what I would say. Reach out.
And Keenan, maybe you can give us an update on the United Way campaign and how it's going?
Sure. Well, it's been a very exciting time as a focus area champion, and just sharing the joy of how it changed a life when a person has a disability and gets a job. So that's been a lot of what I'm doing. And just remember that the campaign is continuing this year. But we want to raise money as quickly as possible. So go and donate today. But it will carry on into March, and we're receptive to ongoing donations. And
there are workplaces all over the city that are engaged in their campaigns. Some of them wrapping them up right now. But this relatively new area of a focus area champion, maybe you can elaborate a little bit on what that role involves.
Sure. Well, it means I'm just responsible for being aware of the issues and the targets that we're working on. And in addition to attending public events, what I'll do is I'll go to, for example, United Way campaigns at local workplaces where they've specifically said, we want to learn more about this focus area. And one of the neat things there is that, of course, hopefully it's helping promote donations, but also employers reaching out and saying, I was also interested in what you said about employing people with disabilities. So this is kind of the power we're tapping into with United Way. It's also their network and not just the fact that they're a great fundraiser.
And the key word is focus, because the United Way is focused on some very specific priorities now, rather than sort of being a generalized campaign that's raising money for all kinds of different things. It continues to be a vehicle through which people can donate to various causes, but there really is a focus to the United Way effort now around some priority areas, including this one.
And this example, I think it was chosen because of the tremendous impact, because when someone gets a job, it obviously also affects, helps people climb out of poverty and changes their social situation in the community.
Thank you both for being here. Good luck the rest of the way.